I never took art seriously. I didn't believe that art could convey facts or information. I actually thought that art was distracting from what was really going on. Well, the first thing I learned when I abandoned this assumption is that art matters. It turns out art was going to change my life. This all started about a year ago when I was working here at UBC as a summer intern. I was working with entrepreneurs and I was very much focused on the business of it all. Now, I was super intimidated by the whole situation. I'd read the bios of a couple of the past interns and they all had master's degrees and I was only 18 years old. So I started hiding out in the back corner of the office, trying to put a bunch of facts into a document for people to read. But while I was doing my research, I kept coming across whiteboard animations and sketch notes that were illustrating the same story I was trying to tell in pictures and not words and numbers. I love them, and I thought that they were so cool, and all I kept thinking was, wow, I wish I could do those myself. Well, after a week or so of fumbling through the narrative, I was at a loss. I tried all the tricks I was taught in school, and I was getting nowhere. So I sketched it out, figuring, well, it's worth a try. Now my drawing was pretty ugly, but it worked. I was able to see all the information, and I understood it. By sketching it out, I was able to synthesize and communicate everything that I was thinking. Over the next couple of months, I worked on a dozen pieces this way. All this silly sketching was actually an analytical tool for me. I even ended up working with other people to help them communicate their thoughts and ideas this way. I realized that art was not empty. You can use art to tell stories and even explain research. My friends spent the next couple of months thinking that I was crazy. I was commuting 2 hours a day, working in the office by myself, drawing stickmen and trying to illustrate genomes. Looking back, I always struggled being in the box. Put me in a class where I got to get my hands dirty on a dissection or a mock trial, I was all in. But the traditional world of writing papers and exams never really engaged me. And it wasn't that I wasn't interested in learning. It was just how I was learning it. In fact, I spent my first year of university trying to be like everybody else. I was in business school, taking classes on management and information systems. I was waiting for inspiration, but it never showed up. After a couple of months, I picked up the phone, called my mom, and I said, I can't do this anymore. Sorry, just looking at my mom. What I thought you needed to be successful was a university degree and a good job. But while I was on track for this, it really didn't feel like success. I wanted to be surrounded by inspiring people and doing interesting things. And this just wasn't working out for me. Now, I had found my inner artist in a world of scientists and entrepreneurs, and that led me to art. But I was still missing something. I still wanted to be a part of the business world and to make a difference. And I hadn't quite figured that part out yet. Now, I had this assumption that all businesses were evil, and that they were only about the money. And this all changed when I traveled to Nairobi, Kenya over the summer to teach entrepreneurship classes in one of the poorer communities. It's an experience that I still have trouble articulating. Now, I had only experienced entrepreneurship in a high-tech university. I was lost when it came to understanding the situation of my students. It wasn't that there was a language barrier, but a cultural barrier. They couldn't relate to most of the things we were talking about or the way we were teaching it. We tried to teach through lectures and followed the curriculum, and it felt like we were getting nowhere. I didn't want this experience to be something I wrote on the footnotes of my resume. I really wanted it to matter. All I kept remembering was how I had limited myself by only trying to communicate a certain way. So, we stepped out of the box. We left out markers and pens, and the walls of our classroom became covered in posters, and our students were inspired. These posters became covered with answers and insights, and I really started to learn from them. What I learned is that not all businesses are evil. Business can actually generate social gain rather than just money. My students were starting up community libraries, daycare centers, and even garbage collection services, all of which were going to have a huge impact on their community. They wanted to make their communities better for their friends and family and create jobs for them. And this was it. Social entrepreneurship was allowing them to improve their lives in a sustainable way. It was allowing them to take a little control of a situation that had felt totally out of reach. This is where my artist met my entrepreneur. When I came home, I realized that there was a world of social entrepreneurs here too. I even participated in a social venture-themed startup weekend, and I got to be involved in this community firsthand. There are so many amazing people doing amazing things here in Vancouver that I didn't know about. So, all these theories I had about how to be successful didn't get me very far, but the idea of entrepreneurship did. Now, there are many perspectives on the nature of entrepreneurship, but the one I relate to is creation of change, which involves modifying and adapting your personal repertoire, skills, and approaches to meet the opportunities in your environment. There are so many ways you can create change, not only by starting a business. So if you're feeling stuck, step out of the box and find your inner entrepreneur. Go do something that makes your friends tell you that you're crazy, and go find something that inspires you.